So, I have had these BC Racing BR Series coilovers installed on my 2015 Infiniti Q50 rear-wheel drive version for about exactly 1 year. So I figured it was perfect timing to give you guys kind of a little update, give you some of my opinions, pros and cons, and kind of how I feel about these coilovers now after riding on them for over a year. Thank you guys very much for stopping into the channel. I appreciate you visiting here. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button right now. Don't forget to hit that little bell notification as well. I do 3 videos every single week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, so you don't want to miss out. A lot of Nissan Infiniti related videos, a lot of Q50 specific videos if you're into Q50 stuff, and just automotive related videos in general. So if that is of any interest to you whatsoever, don't forget to hit the subscribe button at one point or another in this video. And I have well over 400 videos posted now at this point, so feel free to go back and check some of those out. I'm sure you'll find something that is of interest to you. But nonetheless, let's get into this video today. So I'll go through kind of why I chose to go with the BC coilovers for this Q50, some pros and cons about them that I noticed right out of the box, and then kind of give you some of my final opinions on them now after riding on them for a year. So let's dive into this. So first of all, I rode on the factory suspension for 6 to 8 months or so before doing anything to this car. It's more of a luxury sedan, right? So the factory suspension is a little bit soft. It just doesn't feel all that great, especially combined with the factory tires. It's just not a good setup. It's a little bit slushy, a little bit squishy, not good at all. So I actually moved to the Tane S-Tech lowering springs. Great budget-friendly lowering spring, drops the car about 1.5 inches. Ride quality is really decent. Handling improves dramatically. And again, very, very budget-friendly, but really actually high-quality lowering spring. The only problem is that these Q50s are known to have, again, not so good factory suspension. So those shocks just seem to blow out at 45 or 50,000 miles for some reason. So if you are at a higher mile point in your Q50 and you're considering lowering the vehicle, just go right to coilovers. It's going to cost you just as much to replace those shocks and get lowering springs anyway. I didn't have any issues. I had them installed at about 30,000 miles or so, rode on them for well over a year, pushed the car really hard, and didn't have any problems. But take that with a grain of salt. But I got to a point where I was starting to push the car a little bit harder. We did a lot of a lot of mountain runs. I hit Tail the Dragon pretty hard, and I was starting to reach a limit. I needed something a little bit more stiff. I needed a little bit more adjustability. I wanted to be able to dial that suspension in depending on what type of driving we were going to be doing, and I just needed something that was a little bit more predictable and a little more responsive in those aggressive driving scenarios. Again, no complaints with the Tanes, but we reached a point where we needed something a little bit more significant. So that's why I went with a coilover setup. Now, why did I choose BC coilovers? Obviously, BC Racing is has a pretty solid name in the industry, well respected and quality products, and they're at a really decent price point, really accessible to a lot of people. And I thought that BC would be ones that would interest a lot of you guys. It's kind of in the realm of quality, best bang for your buck type coilovers. So that's why I chose to go with them. I went with the BR series just because they were available, to be quite honest. There are a couple other tiers that you can choose from if you're looking at the BC Racing coilovers for the Q50. You can get a little bit more aggressive. It's more track inspired, more track dedicated. But there were a several week lead time at the time I was purchasing these. Again, these BR series were on sale. It was just kind of, it checked a lot of boxes for me, so I just went for them. And I'm happy that I did. I will say that they're a decent riding coilover as coilovers go. You're definitely going to be able to tell the difference from the factory setup to coilovers. You're going to lose ride quality. It's just the nature of the game. And it's just a little bit of a difference going from a lowering spring to these coilovers. So ride quality is pretty decent. There's a lot of dampening adjustments. They're about 30-ish, 32-ish settings for dampening, and you can adjust the ride height over a pretty wide range. So there's a lot of flexibility there, a lot of adjustability. I run more on the stiffer setting, so you have to just have reasonable expectations. Again, they're coilovers, you're going to lose ride quality, so you got to know what you're getting into. And again, you can soften them up, but even at their softest setting, they're going to be a little bit more aggressive. I'll use that word, a little more aggressive than your factory setup or even lowering springs. So keep that in mind. Just continuing on with this pros and cons list, focusing on the pros at this point. Really simple installation, relatively simple. I will say you can probably handle it on your own if you're even a little bit mechanically inclined, but I do have a pretty solid how to install BC Racing coilover video, so check that out if you're interested in doing this on your own. Again, straightforward installation, a lot of dampening settings, a lot of ride height adjustment settings, and a pretty good dual purpose coilover. It's great for someone who wants to be able to dial in their ride height and ride quality, but still uses their car on a daily basis for a commute. So this is my daily driver. This is what I drive every single day to work, but it's great for that type of scenario. You're going to drive every single day, Monday through Friday, to your job, but then on Saturdays and Sundays you might hit the track. So again, really good dual purpose, budget-friendly coilover that is a lot higher quality than Godspeed or Megan Racing, one of those crappy brands that are just a few $100s cheaper. You might as well save up, spend the extra couple hundred, and get a solid set of VCs. Definitely not top of the line, but a good all-around coilover. So along with the pros, there are some cons, there are some negatives. One thing, it's not necessarily a negative, but I will say that if you spend more time on the track, or you push the car much harder on the track, BC may not be the option for you. Again, there are a couple of different tiers that you can choose from that are more track inspired, but just in general, the BC is more of a commuter-friendly coilover that can handle some aggressive driving on the weekends. But I think if you really push the car, you might get to a point relatively quickly where you sort of outdrive these coilovers, so keep that in mind as well. The other con that I'll mention is that they seem to sag a little bit, and I don't know if this is typical of all coilover setups, but it's not something I've experienced in the past. And maybe it's just Q50s in general, but I've adjusted the ride height a number of times over the last year with this Q50, and it just recently did a slammed my Q50 video where I lowered it quite a bit. Ran into some rubbing issues and it wasn't practical, so I raised the car back up. But after a few months, I would say 8 to 10 weeks of driving, it sagged back down again. Now obviously after first installation, you let the car relax and settle a little bit, and then you can really dial in your ride height, which I did. But again, at that point, it seemed to settle 1/8 of an inch or so after several weeks of driving. Same thing happened recently. I figured all of the settling would be out of the spring at this point, but I raised the car up and it dropped maybe 1/8 of an inch. So don't get me wrong, I like the ride height currently where it's at, but it is about 1/8 of an inch lower than what I had set it to just a couple of months ago. So one sort of, I don't want to say complaint, but it's just something you have to think about with these coilovers, that when you adjust the ride height, after a couple of months, you're going to have to make another adjustment. One thing I will throw in about the pros as well is that BC provides some pretty good installation instructions in terms of adjusting preload and things like that. It's really detailed, really easy to follow. Send you the spanner wrenches and everything is fine. It's a pretty simple installation, so that's part of it. The instructions from BC are pretty solid. But as far as cons go, I don't really have much more to say. Again, it's just, if you are really an aggressive driver and you really push your car hard, you might reach the maximum potential of these BC BR series coilovers relatively quickly. However, if you just like to dial in your ride height and you like to drive a little bit spiritedly on your commute to work, and then you just occasionally participate in a track day or a mountain run, BC is probably pretty solid for you. And I think that's generally my overall opinion. It's a good overall all-around coilover that's going to get you that adjustability that you're looking for. Retain a little bit of the ride quality that you'd like to have on your daily commute, not be kind of a rattle trap lumber wagon feeling, but still be solid enough, predictable enough, and versatile enough to handle various driving conditions. So all around, really good quality, really good bang for your buck coilover setup, but not one that I would recommend for those of you that are really pushing your car hard and maybe focus more on that driving rather than your daily commute. If it's a daily commuter, again, if you drive it every single day, you want a nice comfortable ride, but you want to be able to push it on the weekends, perfect. Really good bang for your buck. And that's my opinion there. Even after a year of driving this car on these coilovers, they feel good still. It still feels really nimble, especially combined with a good set of tires, some sway bars, and a good braking setup. Car feels like a totally different animal out on the road now, and the BC Racing coilovers play a huge part in that. So highly recommended for me. Check out the link in the description below. Check out my installation video as well as my initial impressions video too, and if I can remember, I'll link those in the description below. But that's my opinion right now. After a year of driving on these BC Racing coilovers, they're not going anywhere. I'm keeping them. I like them, and I'm really looking forward to getting this car out and pushing it a little bit harder in the mountains and hopefully hit Tail of the Dragon here pretty soon as well. If I can just get a little bit of time, where I can do some more driving, maybe this weekend. Stick around. Hopefully you guys will check out some other videos, but I got some more good stuff coming for this Q50 this summer, as well as 350Z. If you guys are interested in 350Z content, please check that out as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for watching the other videos as well. I appreciate the continued support, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I get to every single one of them as quickly as I possibly can. Thanks again. We'll see you later.